Next question comes from my good friend at Mr. 1925. How do we bridge the gap between casual and hardcore fans? Who is that guy and girl? Ratings are down because of that gap. Case in point, Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar. Now, we all remember that feud. As fans, we all wanted to believe Seth would beat Brock. Then, on an episode of Raw leading up to Mania, Brock attacks Seth, and as a casual fan, walks into our living room and says, "That's a disgrace. How's that wee guy supposed to beat Brock Lesnar?" So then Seth wins the belt, and the casual fan says to us, "I'm never watching that crap again." Well, quite clearly, based a bit of a personal true story, that question there, but it's certainly interesting because it shows the dynamic of what a casual fan outside looking in sees when they look at the product from what we see ourselves. We have that time where we're hardcore fans to actually invest in the characters and take time of what we're given. For a casual fan, they are more interested in what they see first time round, and if it sticks, they go with it. If they don't like the look of it, they don't come back. So we're willing to sit and see that build of Seth Rollins over that 12 months because it's a great example, Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins had that period where he was kind of disconnected with the crowd for a long time, definitely in 2017 and the start of 18. And then he went on and had that match on Raw, which was a gauntlet, which has probably led to every gauntlet match we've had since. Seth Rollins had a good hour in the ring. He beat Roman Reigns and John Cena at the time. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, we've got Seth. He's back, and he's back." And it took him a year to build him up to where they went, and then they got into where he was at the point where he won the Royal Rumble, and then was in this program of Brock at WrestleMania. The question is here: is it a size issue? Potentially. The thing is we've seen that smaller guys get to the top of the card and stay there and be seen believable in some of the high times of wrestling. Shawn Michaels, arguably one of the greatest of all time, was about 234. So it's hard to really answer the size issue, but Seth is a smaller guy than what Shawn was back in the day as well, and Brock is a lot bigger and more. Brock is the kind of guy that if he's going to be beaten, he needs to be beaten by a bigger guy. I don't think it ever feels believable when he's in the ring with people like Daniel Bryan and Finn Balor, and as much as Brock probably has better matches, I don't think that they're believable. Like you say, when Seth wins, and I always thought that when looking at it, I was like, I'm not sure how believable it feels to an audience member to have to suspend their disbelief that he could win that match, despite the fact that we were all wanting it and knowing that Seth was the guy that could carry the brand. At the same time, Brock is he's a different level, and he's an attraction himself, Brock, and that's why he's done so well. He's a believable bad guy. The question is, with the current crop, because Brock Lesnar isn't around at the minute, Seth Rollins have gone on since the turn heel where things didn't work out for him, and I think a thing that didn't help Seth as well was Twitter, and I don't know, just something is disconnecting with his personality as a babyface. I don't know what it is. I think that Seth he does great in-ring work as a babyface, but I think he is more believable as a heel, and I think that his best work in wrestling has always been as a heel. Looking through other times as well, I think that it comes down to organic moments and timing in wrestling. I think they're the key things that you need to look at. I mean, if you look at Rusev Day, for example, that was a very key thing that caught on with the crowd, caught on with the audience. And if a casual fan was to watch it, they'd see all these people chanting for Rusev Day, and people would go, "What's all this Rusev Day thing all about?" And because they'd see people so invested, you naturally get more drawn in. If you see when WWE these days seems to push a lot of their superstars on us to the point where we sit and think to ourselves, right, okay, this is the guy they want. Fans sometimes connect with it and fans sometimes don't. There's a lot more of this middle ground with superstars than there ever used to be back in the old days. I mean, Roman Reigns is a very good example where, he's supposed to be the biggest babyface, and there's been a long time where fans have alienated from the idea of that and been booing him out of the building. It just comes to a point then where a casual fan would go in and go, they're booking him like a good guy and everyone hates him. Something doesn't work here. And I think that for a casual fan that everything needs to connect the dots. I mean, if you look, Zack Ryder's not really the best example ever, but Zack Ryder was a guy that massively got over at one point. We had the We Want Ryder chants and stuff like that. And WWE didn't go with it. Same with Rusev Day, they didn't go with it. If someone gets over organically, they need to capitalise on that. And when it's like that, you can't then go, well, he's over. We're going to spend the next year building him up to become the champion. Don't waste your time. Build him up there and then and get him in that championship picture as soon as you possibly can. Now, I'm not saying that he should be like a Jinder Mahal and be in there overnight, but you can build him up and get some big wins over a course of a couple of months and then take the momentum while it's there, because that's what, as a fan, I think we would be heavily feel refreshed from seeing people that can get over organically. Yes, of course, we're always going to still get the guys they really plan for us to try and get over, and that really will come down to the booking itself. If you know how to get someone over, you'll get them over, and we'll eventually cheer for the people you want us to cheer for. But if you've not booked them people right, and you are booking someone else secretly, like you're not meaning to book right, but you're booking them perfectly, capitalize on it and push them instead. Get them up the top of the card, because you never know who is the right guy and the right girl. At this point, it's hard really to say. If you look at WWE right now, I do feel that Drew McIntyre potentially can be the right guy, because he has this sense of what feels like freedom in his promos, in all of his work that he's doing. He's being booked strongly. The problem we're going to have is, will fans turn on him quickly for being booked too strong? It already feels like a couple of questions from people that I speak to in the community are questioning how strong he's being booked. But you need him to be booked strong, because that's the other point of where this can go wrong. 50-50 booking. For someone to win and to lose then the next week, they lose their momentum. You have to keep someone winning if you want them to be built as strong as a megastar. And the thing is, we spoke about this last week a little bit with Drew. He is probably the key of what they've got to building a megastar right now, because things have just connected and the dots have hit at the right time. He's gone to become champion in the right time period, and now it's not just the story of where you've got to be the champion and that's it. It's where can you take it from here? Can you bring 2 or 3 guys up with you up the card, so that when that guy beats Drew, that guy massively gets over, whether it's a bad guy, because bad guys are as key as this as well. If you've got a really good bad guy and people want to see them get beat, you believe more in the good guy than what you believed before. If sometimes the bad guys are so cool that literally you think yourself, yeah, but he's a boring baby face, and we've got this really cool bad guy. It's like it can also connect the dots as why you get those mixed reactions as well. So there's a lot of different variables of what this comes into, but I think organic, timing are 2 of the real key factors here. And like we say, we've got something good with Drew. He's a good size. The timing has gone right. Organically, it's gone together. It's now keeping it that way and building them up well. I think the program with Seth Rollins so far is being built quite well. It's where they're going to go later down the line with Drew and with these 2. As for the women's division, Becky has been the best booked, and she's connected with fans in lots of different ways. The problem that Becky has got is that she's not been able to bring anybody up with her. There's no one that's arguably on her level, and I think that comes down for her being champion too long. There's being booked strongly, and then there's absolutely destroying the division, and that's where I think it's gone wrong with Becky. She was never really booked to the best as champion. The story went up to WrestleMania, and after that, I think that the story wasn't booked as well. The program with Lacey Evans was very hit and miss. Natalya was never believable. Sasha Banks, when she came back, should have been the one to beat her for the belt. Sasha, since now, is not seen on the same level. We've got to Shayna Baszler. Baszler really felt that she was the one, and it didn't connect. So there's lots of different variables, and it all comes down to that timing thing I mentioned. You've got to know when to build someone up, you've got to know when to knock them down, and you've got to know how to build your next star. Because you can build 1 star, you can build 2 stars, and then you can build 4 stars, and then you can build 8 stars. We've got it in different areas of wrestling. When you look at the attitude area, you look at ruthless aggression, those stars were built and made, and they can last you for up to 10 years. But if you just build 1, it only lasts for so long. The fans turn on them, and then that's it. It's game over. So it's very crucial of how it is done when it comes to the booking side of things. And for casual fans, like I say, if you can get someone in the mainstream, and we go back to an earlier question here, I mean, being involved in a mainstream movie is a good way of getting people in. Celebrities to endorse your superstars is a good way to do it as well. There's lots of different ways of building that way. Sometimes you've got to take your superstars and put them in the casual world. I remember back in the 90s, it was very popular that you'd see someone from WCW go on Jay Leno, for example. These late night talk shows, for example, making TV appearances, Saturday Night Live for WWE back in 2000. There's lots of different ways that they can do it. And at the moment, it's probably very difficult to do right now in the current world we live in. But maybe at some point down the line, it would be very interesting to see how that would go.